Hello, and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle. I'm your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday night. We're doing a special episode on Monday because I have some friends in town I'm very excited to have on the show. So I know you guys are like, why are you doing a show on Monday? Well, that's the reason. If you need to know, you better ask somebody. Make sure all our audio is good. It's been a while. We didn't do a show last week because I went to Branson, Missouri with my family. We got to enjoy all the crazy touristy things, but my daughter also was in a national dance competition in which she became the national grand champion of her dance group, and that's pretty cool. It was pretty cool to watch. Just mean we had to stay there a couple extra days, so we didn't get to do a show last week. I apologize. I think halfway through this month I will also be gone for a week for training for work, so I'll miss that week as well. But we are back to doing at least 2 streams a week when I'm in town, so I hope you guys will go and check us out. Go check out toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get all kinds of great hats, backpacks, hoodies. I think you can get leggings and pillows and all kinds of cool stuff over there by using BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Or you can join the Patreon, subscribe star, become a member of the YouTube channel under all of our videos by hitting the join link, where you can get into a private Discord server and get up to 30% off of Top's new gear 2 weeks before it goes to the general public. Good stuff. If you want to support people in the movement that are making all kinds of contributions, that's the way to do it. You'd support us both. You get all kinds of cool kickbacks. It's a really great way to do it if you want to do it. I'm not making you do anything. You're not under arrest here. Tonight I'm wearing a shirt from the American Lictor, which was sent to me by our good friend of the show, Brown Water Squid. If you guys aren't familiar, go check them out too. They're really great. This is a great show. It says here, train harder, eat better, touch dirt, live free. I am trying to get to the train harder part. Obviously, I'm still fat fuck, but I'm trying to work on it. I promise you, I have lost a little weight. And a lot of that's because I have 7 kids to feed, and I don't always get seconds. Sometimes I don't get firsts, like tonight. But guys, we got a great show for you tonight. I'm very excited. If you guys aren't familiar, I was at the national convention recently for the Libertarian Party, where I was absolutely dusted in the election, the nomination process for president. We did not make it. I'm running for state senate here in Iowa now, as you guys are aware. But really the cool thing was all the friends we made along the way. Really, I mean, that was the best part of this campaign. I got to make all kinds of cool new friends. One of those friends, my friend Axel Winter, who showed up, and I was like, yeah, I follow you on Twitter. Holy shit, you're from Australia. I had no idea. And then awesome Lady Liberty from Lady Liberty podcast, if you're not familiar. She was also at the national convention interviewing tons of people. She didn't interview me. That's okay. I don't mind. I'll survive. But they are in the studio with me tonight, guys. How are you doing?
G'day, Josh. I'm so sorry I didn't get the chance to interview you. You're welcome to come on my show anytime. Axel here came across to America especially to support you. You're one of his heroes, so he's so excited to be here, and I'm so excited too.
Oh, well, don't make my head any bigger than it already is. I wear a size 8 hat already, and a lot of people are saying that my mic is really fuzzy. I may have turned it up too hot. You guys know that this show is not a legit show if we don't have audio issues first. Hopefully I fixed it there. If I didn't, let me know. Axel, how are you doing, man? Thank you so much for coming and having dinner with the family.
Oh, man, it's great to meet your family. It's very inspiring to your life and campaign, and managing to do all that stuff with, I think there's 102 children here or something.
At least 102. Yeah, absolutely. It's a madhouse here. And we've had other people in the studio before. In fact, the vice presidential candidate that got the nomination came and did a show on the same couch here, and he said one of the best parts about his campaign was getting to sit down and have food with my family and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool of him. And there was kind of a small falling out at the national convention between me and him as well. And not over anything crazy. And I really don't have any ill will towards Mike Termott. I actually like him. I think he's a great guy. And I think he has a lot more atoning to do for his past and public service. Yes. But I don't at all. I'm not at all mad that he won the vice presidential nomination. My gripes are more with some of the policies that Chase has, obviously. But I'm not even really mad at Chase. I told people walking into the national convention, the biggest competitor here today is Chase Oliver. I told people that because he's been campaigning for over 2.5 years. He'd already gone to all the states. He'd already done all the organizing. And really, the problem with not having an open primary, having a closed nomination process where it's only delegates that are selected by their state parties, is you have 1,100 people to convince. Not a nation, 1,100 people. And if you're better at organizing, or if you've organized longer or done all the things that people talk about when it comes to the Libertarian Party, you can win the nomination. And I told everybody, you have to worry about Chase Oliver. No one believed me. They said, we're not even worried about him. The Mike Rechtenwald campaign said, we're not even worried about him. He's not going to do anything. I said, dude, you really got to think about this, And so I'm not mad at Termont, but Termont has sat on that couch and had food, and we've had some state house reps sit there, and maybe we'll get bigger guests. But right now, you're the biggest guests I've ever had in the studio. How does that feel, Axel?
We're excited. We're honored to be here. We were very captivated by your convention. We came all the way from Australia. I've been involved in the Libertarian Party down there for longer than I'd like to admit, but for us, it was like herding libertarians. You can't tell anyone what to do or where to go. And for us, it's different because in Australia, you just have to be a member of the party for 12 months, pay your membership, and you can vote on who your candidates are. So for us, the whole process of seating delegates, which took the best part of the first day, that was crazy for us to watch. It's very bureaucratic for a Libertarian Party. I think that's one thing that we found. And the fact it took till the midnight hour on the Sunday to choose a candidate, and it could have been no one. We were just sitting back having beers going, what the bloody hell's going on here? They're worse than the Australian Libertarian Party.
It's almost like going to a DSA convention here for the Libertarians. And that's the sad thing, is it's embarrassing, really, how much we squabble over parliamentary process, right? Like our federal government doesn't argue over parliamentary process like the Libertarian National Convention does.
A lot of neckbeards.
It is a ton of neckbeards, and maybe me included. I haven't shaved in a while, and but yeah, it was such a. I can only imagine coming from like a different country to see that and being like, what the hell is going on here?
It was this like crazy trip that I kind of had to jump into quickly, and I drive from Dallas to DC just because I want to see the country, and I get there and it's like, I thought Americans are gonna have this handled.
You guys are the beacon of hope for liberty.
Exactly. And I show up for registration on the Thursday just because I had nothing else to do, and I was like, I'll just check out what the convention's like, what the place is like, and nearly got seated as a delegate despite my accent not
Next
matching.
minute he's voting.
Yeah, that's crazy to me, and not at all surprising.
Yeah. I realized that was just a normal day.
Well, I've been through. That was my 4th national convention in a row. 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024. And I ran for national chairman in 2018 and 2020. I was running for national chairman. In 2020, we were in the peak of the COVID era in the United States. We actually were initially supposed to have our convention in Austin, Texas, and they moved it to Orlando, Florida, which is where they had the 2016 convention already. So they just went back there to the same place so that we could have one. Well, half of our convention was already done. We had already done our nominating convention online, which is against the bylaws anyways. And there were some challenges to that when Joe Jorgensen won, of course, because why not? And then they did a half in-person, half online convention at the in-person convention. And all the votes were somewhere around 600 to 700 votes for all these motions, right? You saw how many motions get made at these things, right? It's insane. It's an insane number of motions.
Good reason to drink.
Yeah, it will drive a person to drink. And then all of a sudden, for the chair debate, the chair election, and the secretary election, which was me versus Joe Bishop Hinchman, who was Nick Sarwark's kind of student, and then Karen Ann Harlos versus Evan McMahon, who was kind of a Nick Sarwark guy, was Nick Sarwark's campaign manager when we ran for public office. All of a sudden, those votes were over 900 votes. And half the convention was online, right, at the time. And so there was like an instant challenge to the delegate, to the credentials. The credentials committee chair basically came up and said, I have no idea what's going on, sorry, and walked off stage. And they just rolled with it. So like, we know there was some fishy shit going on there. I never wanted to be the Trump stop the steal guy for the party. And then you go to 2022 and you see that all of a sudden there's these illegitimate delegates sat. Of course, they're trying to credential a gentleman from Australia who doesn't even have citizenship here.
Not yet.
Not yet. You will, we will get you citizenship in the
We have
United States.
political refugees from Australia. He's from Victoria. I'm from Western Australia. The worst states during COVID. We're going to battle it out over who had the worst dictator. I'm going to win.
No doubt in my mind that we will get you guys to become American citizens. Now you got to remember at the national convention in the debate, I said America's full. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
And before I talked about immigration in that debate, I actually went over to Mike Tremont and said, "Watch this. They're going to boo me. They're going to boo me. I'm going to get booed." I knew before I said it that I would get booed. So I've talked a lot about that on the show too, right? Like I don't believe in free immigration. I think that it's bullshit. I think that Americans and rightfully so, every country, every nation deserves to have their own sovereign nation that allows people in that can jive with the culture, right? I mean, that's the nicest way to put it. Like if you import the third world, you become the third world. That's how that works. And I think that libertarians are first they're zealous about everything. And they have this kind of, purity spiral. And I agree with that I agree with people on most of that shit. Like I'm an anarchist at heart in most rights. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. Murray Rothbard, I say all the time, he radicalized me. Ron Paul got me in the fight, and Nick Sarwark pissed me off enough to get involved in politics, right? And so like I understand that a country deserves to have its own sovereign nation, but also I think that immigration is a good thing if you're importing people that can jive with the culture, that actually want to contribute to society, that aren't going to come over here and take a giant taxpayer-funded paycheck just to sit around and do nothing, which is what's happening right now. So clarifying my position with a couple of immigrants, I've said very clearly that I would take everybody from Australia that came from the Lionhelm wing of politics. Yes. You worked for Senator Lionhelm.
I did. Daddy Lionhelm is one of my bloody heroes. He's why I'm here today. I can't thank him. He's the Ron Paul for Australian libertarians. He's a bloody legend.
He's also why I'm here today too, because it was our inspiring moment to see in our parliament and just the government in general, see someone be like, the line was, "It is my religion to not pay taxes," and I was just like,
yeah, absolutely. Well, and this is a growing sentiment internationally, right? And I think that I said in my closing, and we talked about this upstairs, that I don't have the luxury of the black pill, right? I don't. I have children. The black pill means I'm giving up on my children and their future and the future for you've met my 2 grandchildren now. I have 2 grandchildren. I'm giving up on the future of my family and the future existence of my nation by taking the black pill, saying, you know what, it's too far gone. We'll never be able to fix this stuff. But I have to believe that we can fix it, but there's also a growing sentiment around the world. I mean, we've seen it with Javier Milei. Whatever your views on his weird obsession with Israel are, like, I think that's dumb. He's doing some really good things economically and publicly right now.
I reckon that could be a safety blanket. You know what I mean?
You never want to get suicided. That's for sure. Exactly. And I understand that, if there's a very good chance that I got the nomination from the Libertarian Party, I'd have to roll around with security. Very good chance. And a lot of that, I have the Israeli Apartheid Week poster up in every show I do. I'm not a big fan of Zionist movement. I'm not a big fan of the government of Israel. People know that about me. And these people spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year to try and defeat people that work in politics like me. There's not a lot of lengths they won't go to take out a loud voice that's anti-Israel and Zionist, right? I get that. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to get suicided. It's a scary thing to think about, And
well, the sadder thing is the lengths you have to go to in your own party to try and progress liberty. I mean, we saw the Libertarian Party here and how that went on and the behavior there. It's exactly the same back in Australia. The infighting, the people with self-interest, like the grifters that we've spoken about while we've been traveling around America. It's sad to see the liberty movement so divided amongst itself, and coming to America where we see you guys as the beacon of hope, and then seeing what went on at that convention
makes it really hard.
It makes it hard to have faith. But like when we saw,
but then all the people we meet changes that.
There's a huge sentiment for it.
Yeah, and seeing Ron Paul
Yeah.
speak for us as Australians who've watched him as, you know, from afar, and him just saying, do whatever you can to advance liberty, that's like, we were standing in that convention room, we were nearly crying because we don't have that kind of strong voice in Australia anymore since Leinholm's not involved. So
and seeing like during Ron Paul, there was no like,
it's like
oh,
listening
boo
to
that or
No.
it was
Jesus.
just-
No, which is funny because so one of my liberty heroes is Scott Horton. Okay, he's one of the greatest living voices for the anti-war movement, if not the greatest. Okay, I know
Probably
that there's
the
other
greatest,
people that are
yes.
very good on this stuff. I think Greenwald and people at Gray Zone and these guys are amazing. Nobody has the wealth of knowledge just implanted in their brain that Scott Horton has when it comes to anti-war stuff. And I'm watching the Chase campaign do a conga line in front of his speech with their spines, right? And I'm going, what a fucking piece of shit thing to do. Why would you guys do that during one of the most important anti-war? Your guys running on a platform that he's anti-war to the core. I heard him say it 7,000 times during the course of our campaigns. Anti-war to the core, right? I opposed the Iraq war, even as a Democrat. Yeah, so did apparently Obama, right? But you're doing this conga line, pulling up your signs in front of one of the greatest living voices of the anti-war movement. But when Ron Paul came on, nobody did that shit. Everybody stood up quietly and listened to the greatest living American statesman, maybe the greatest living international statesman of our lifetimes. And so that was, I've seen Ron speak several times, and if you guys don't know, he endorsed me in 2020 for national chairman very publicly, did like a video endorsement, and I keynoted the ballroom behind him at the Omaha Roads to Freedom Unconvention. It was the first time I ever had a 45-minute speech, and I'm like, I thought it was supposed to be 15 minutes, and I showed up and I'm like, what, behind Ron Paul I have to do 45 minutes? Oh shit. Okay. So I've seen him speak many times since 2008. Still brings a tear to my eye every time. I mean, the guy's, he's been saying the same thing for 40, 50, 60 years. He hasn't changed. He's not like these other people that go with whatever the political winds of change are. He says what's honest, whether it's popular or not. And we are sorely lacking people like that in this world, sorely lacking. And that's one of the reasons why I was attracted to Senator Leinhelm myself. And I brought him up. I didn't let you guys bring him up. I brought him up because he's, he was like Ron Paul to me for Australia. And I think, it's sad that you guys don't have more people like that in a country that's really probably one of the most fun places you could ever live. People are awesome, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's laid back, it seems like, and chilled, and you got the beach communities, and you got all these great big cities, and it's like you have this really cool, like, laid back, chill place, and you have the worst politicians you could possibly ever imagine in history. They're anti-personal defense, anti-capital, it's like anti all the things that could make your country great, and it really bums me out, because I've been to Australia. And I had the most fun I've ever had in my life there, outside of hanging out with my own kids, like the greatest time of my life. And to know that, like, I would never want to live there, that sucks. You know what I mean?
Well, it's hard for us because it's our home, right? And we love our home, we love our families, and we love our people. But Australians are pathetically apathetic. And during COVID, you saw the compliance, right? Especially in your state of Victoria and my state of WA. People honestly believed that the government were keeping us safe. They kept my border closed for 2.5 bloody years. I couldn't travel within my own country. Melbourne was the second most locked down city in the whole world. And we're meant to be a free country? Like, we're not a free country. WA at the moment are confiscating guns off of veterans. They're bringing in gun limits. You can't own higher caliber firearms, even though we have big animals that need to be hunted. Like, we despair for the future of our country. And we want to come here and have children here in a free country and then export freedom back to Australia. That's our mission in life. And that's why I'm so glad I met Axel at the convention, because he's the only other Australian that I've met
that gets
it because of what he went through in Victoria. Like, my heart breaks for this story. He got arrested at one of the peaceful protests because we don't have the First Amendment there. We don't have the right to protest against our government. So he was arrested, and your brother was arrested
maced and
locked
shot
up.
at. My brother was detained for 3 days without cause. The police were freaked out because they couldn't figure out his identity because he doesn't
Doesn't do the
doesn't
thing.
do social media, or he'd never signed up for welfare or any of those things.
Right.
Never voted, all of that. It's compulsory voting, and he's never voted. And
Oh, savage. Nice.
they're like,
Well, you have to vote in Australia?
yeah, no, it's a $190 fine.
Yeah, if
Or
you
it's
don't
like
vote.
125 American or
No
whatever.
fucking way, dude. Seriously? Compulsory voting.
And their reason for that is because the Anzacs fought for our freedom. So you have to vote to participate in the freedom of your country. And it's like, but you're putting up, like you, Republicans and Democrats, the same side of the
Oh,
shit
we'd be
coin.
lucky if we had Republicans. There's no conservatives
no.
in Australia.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Australia has fallen. Australia is lost. That's why we've come to America, because
We're not here with good news.
we're not here.
Well, I'll tell you this. I routinely advocate for turning Australia back into a prison colony. I know Axel watches the show. He probably heard me say it several
yeah.
times. It's mostly tongue in cheek.
You wouldn't really change much. You'd just like maybe turn up the welfare a bit, and everyone would live in their own prison happily.
Well, I say it tongue in cheek about Australia, but I do mean that there should be a prison colony.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be funding people to sit in prison for 100 years or 50 years or whatever for things like child molestation and
Oh, it's
murder and
only
stuff like that.
like 6 months to 2 years in Australia. So
Oh yeah. No, it's really bad here too. I mean,
Yeah.
we got child molesters that are getting probation. Meanwhile, we got Edward Snowden told the country that they were spying on them, and he's an expat living in Russia or something, like trying to run away from the federal government. It's pretty crazy here too. I mean, don't get me wrong. We some states are better than others, right?
Yes.
Obviously,
but some states have the ability. Well, some states allow you the ability to deal with the problem.
Yeah. Well, and AJ's had on the show, AJ has had a really cool idea that I don't know if you've heard this. It's actually the complete opposite of what you guys have going on in Australia. AJ came up with the idea. Maybe he didn't come up with it. I think probably the guys on Censored TV did, or someone over there. But we would pay you $2,000 a month as like a universal basic income. The stipulation is you can't vote.
Yeah.
Sold.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Sign us
No.
up.
So you'd have like about 3,000 people voting in Australia if you offered that.
Well, the thing is like the people that take welfare now continue to vote in these welfare programs, right? So like we'll pay you $2,000
We got
a
it
month.
way worse on that front.
Yeah.
Welfare, everything. That about 60% of Australia works for the government,
Holy fuck!
which is like definitely economically profitable, right? That's
Oh,
how
yeah,
finances
absolutely, yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's 60%.
Because people will argue it's like, oh, only like 30% work directly for the government, but all of our country's mostly civil works. And it's like, who's paying for the civil works?
Yeah, the other 40%
Government
or what?
contracts. Yes.
Yes.
Holy shit, that's crazy. We got a couple of super chats here. Quest Fanning, thanks for the $5 super chat. He said the girls and I met Kate and Axel at the emo hub at Porkfest. Just wanted to say cheers. Quest,
Yes. Cheers.
Yeah, Quest is amazing. He's a longtime supporter of the show, good friend of mine. I love him to death. I'm glad that he was at Porkfest. I'm upset that I didn't get to go to Porkfest this year. I was planning on going, just couldn't make it happen.
It was a bit of a
Shit show.
libertarian event.
Yeah, it gets wild, dude. It gets wild. And the cool thing about Porkfest is you could stay in like your own little sections and kind of stay away from some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
it's wild. It's a wild thing. They do have like a whole kids section. Like if I had brought my family, we would have just stayed in the kids section. Then I would, after everyone goes to bed, I'd venture off.
That was kind of the beautiful thing about it, is it was like what you're here for is allowed, and here's where it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like anarchy in practice, really.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, it's what it
Literally.
is.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what it is.
absolutely. I mean, even the kids are like little anarchist kids. Like it's
Some of the stories about the they did a fake
Story time.
Oh,
for
the story
kids.
time,
Yes.
story time. No, but
No, the parliament. Like
we won't talk about what they did in the parliament, but parliament for
Children.
teenage and younger libertarians was wild.
based.
yeah. Half those kids are Jeremy Kaufman's kids.
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure.
We
That-
also
that's probably
found
why.
we found it. Well, I found it wild. The people open carrying. Like
Oh,
to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I'd never felt safer.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Everybody you meet's got a rifle on their back at Porkfest. I mean,
Yes.
it's and big time. I mean, we're
Even in a cocktail dress, people got
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and people, for people that don't understand, like yes, open carrying, not just handguns.
yeah no.
Huge ass AK-47s and 300 blackouts and like badass like high grade weaponry at all over Porkfest. And of course, New Hampshire is one of those states that you can do that in, right?
Yeah.
We can do that in Iowa too.
Well, that for us, when we were staying at the hotel, we were staying outside and driving in each day, and the number plates, just noticing.
Live free or die.
Oh yeah, that's their motto.
Yeah, and it was just like they've done it. They've achieved like just that level of bureaucracy to us. If we overcame that,
We
think,
can't have that on our number
I
plates.
think
We'll
mine's
be
the
arrested.
education state, which is more of an indoctrination.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Well, but here you gotta remember this. New Hampshire still does not have legal weed.
I don't think they're practicing that very well.
That's pretty crazy
Yeah,
though,
no,
right? Like
it is.
you think about, so like I think about the Free State Project, and I'm like, what a great thing, right? Like that's if you're gonna coalesce around some ideas, here's your ideas to coalesce around. Get in a small state, take that shit over, get into the bureaucracy, get into the government there, take it over in these laws. You think one of the first laws the libertarians would have got rid of is the thing. But I do know that a lot of the times when houses try to pass these legalized drugs or marijuana bills, they always try to have as much regulation over it as they possibly can. Talking about like 37% excise tax off the top for
That'd
the
be
whole
nice
industry.
if we only had 37% excise tax on any of our substances.
What's our alcohol? Alcohol tax is like 70%.
Yeah, so for mixed drinks, like anything that a teenager might want to drink, is something like 70% or more.
Yeah, because if they tax it 70%, it'll make less teenagers drink.
Yet we have the highest consumption per head in the world.
Yeah. Australia drinks.
Yes.
There's some drink. I don't think people realize there's a lot of drinking. They close the bars for like 30 minutes, right? Like 8 to 8:30, and then they open back up after a little cleaning, right?
Usually not really. You just, if you know the bar staff enough, you get to stay.
I tell that story a lot. About when I was in Perth, that the post office, which was a
Yes.
fucking awesome, fun club to go to. They'd kick you out for 30 minutes and then open back up. You could come back in and drink. They just had to clean it, like make sure the floor's not sticky or whatever.
But make sure the good one. Always sticky in an Australian bar.
Yeah, it was a fun place. I was like, man, you can really just hang out and party until the sun comes up and longer.
You could before COVID though.
Right. Things are a lot different now.
Mostly just because all the venues got shut down and then they couldn't afford to stay open, you know.
Well, even here in the United States, they say over 30% of the business, small mom and pop spots, 30% of the businesses that were shuttered during COVID never returned to the market.
I think Melbourne CBD actually had like 50%, and that wasn't just mum and pop shops. That was 50% of business.
Fuck.
Lost their.
That's
you know,
crazy.
it's still only starting to come back, having shops not empty and whatever else. Like
It's so crazy because it was the largest wealth transfer from the poor to the rich in the history of the world, the entire world. And for the left to still be going, yes, we needed to do this, and not understand the implications, not just the economic factors, but the social factors, the mental health factors, right? Like we have a generation of kids that it's going to take a generation to wash out the trauma that they experienced from this, you know?
probably more in Australia just because of the economic damage. So like, it's like 51% of millennials will never be able to afford a house in Australia for any circumstance, including through inheritance. And then it's like 63% for Gen Z.
Holy shit.
Like
We
that's
have
how,
no chance.
This
We have
is
no
literally,
chance. No.
it's not happening.
It's a lot like California. I mean, honest to God, like the things that you guys talk about in Australia, California is not far off.
Well, yeah, but see, this is the thing. You're talking about Newsom before, and I do agree with your sentiment on that. But, like, at least in Melbourne, hearing about what California was going through, we were standing there like, swap, truck.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
take
fair.
that.
And I don't just mean as far as COVID. I mean overall.
Yeah.
The fact that they're very close to just banning rifles outright. I mean, they're very, very close, and they have been for a while. Of course,
it'd be nice if you could get any guns basically without a.
Yeah, I mean it's getting to that point in California now. I mean they passed a law 2 years ago that you have to do background checks to even buy ammo now, which was never the case for anywhere. And in fact, it's a huge violation of the Constitution in general. But it's getting worse and worse and worse in California. I mean, you know, as somebody who was born in California in 1983, lived there for 30 years of my life, I can tell you that it went from, you know, this beautiful, great state with every single thing you could ever need around the world, right? I mean, the mountains, the oceans, the big cities, the redwood forest, everything that you could possibly imagine. It's now become unlivable.
That's how I feel about Western Australia. That's why my heart breaks for that state. And you had the best time in Perth. It's one of the best cities in Australia. I know you haven't been there yet, but I'm going to show you when I go back there in January.
I know Melbourne's not the best city in the country. It's the worst. It's fine.
Yeah, well, it's probably Melbourne's probably more like California. I mean, honest to God, So you guys have to go back before you can try to make it work here for good.
Basically, jobs and stuff, the process will take too long to do it while I'm here. So
got to go home and work. I
mean, well, we'll be going home to work because the more money you come to America with, the better off you are.
Yes.
Any day of the week.
Absolutely.
But it's just about like timing. If you're a skilled worker, is how I'll be getting in, is about doing it at the start of the year, for example, makes a huge difference to that. Kind of seems a bit pointless to have an arbitrary everyone out the gate in January and try and figure it out. It's what it is. And you've kind of got the talent thing sewn up.
Hopefully.
Yeah, there you go. What's your trade by? What do you by trade?
So I was a welder, but I'm design engineer, mechanical design. So,
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're one of those.
If it happens with metal, I know how to do it apart from making guns.
Oh, right.
I'm not even allowed to put into Google, how is a gun made?
Are you serious?
Well, we can't even own books in Western Australia. They've banned schematic drawings of firearms in case we 3D print them. So books banned.
Even
WA.
a decorative one. That's
Even
like
decorative,
not
yeah.
completely detailed.
So let me lay out a scenario here about guns, okay? Because I'm a gun nut. When I know you are too, and I follow you on Twitter. I see, but so here's the thing. So like when the left talks about like, oh, this person's a gun nut, right? And then they always eventually devolve into talking about your penis, right?
That's our right wing and libertarian party talking about people being gun nuts and that being a problem.
Your libertarian party. Oh yeah, your libertarian party's anti-gun. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. How the fuck can you call yourself a libertarian?
Well, I nearly got disendorsed from my Senate campaign because I was too pro-gun for them. That's how bad the Libertarian Party is in Australia. You think you guys are bad?
Holy shit!
I'll trade you for us.
Listen, libertarians of Australia. How do you fuck up libertarianism? It's just don't let the government do shit. How hard is that? Stop it.
Like my views are pretty similar to yours on a lot of the things.
Yeah, we're a little more conservative, I think.
Yeah, and but if we had Chase as a candidate, that would be huge.
Yeah, you guys, he might win.
he might win, but more to the point, like just his gun stance alone is like,
they back right off him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's really crazy because he's part of the Pink Pistols, the gay gun rights group, right? Like he is a gun guy. Although he went to, I will say he posted a picture of himself at the range during his campaign, and he was wearing the Keen shoes, like the holes all in them and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I never met a gun guy that goes to the range with those shoes. You know what I mean? But no, let me lay out a scenario here. So when the left's talking about gun nuts, that's me. They're talking about me. I'm a gun nut. I got them hidden.
Be shot if they found out.
Yeah. I got them. I got them hidden all over, everywhere you can think of, and I carry one with me when I come downstairs, and I take it with me to the gas station. I mean, I'm always ready to go because, I come from a place that's really bad. And you're not allowed to carry guns where I'm from. And I carried a gun illegally for many, 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 many years because I'm not going to become a victim to Oakland, California, right? But B, because we have adopted kids and we have a biological dad that's threatened to shoot us in the face and kill us and kill our family and all this stuff. Okay, I don't talk a lot about that publicly, but there's legit like threats of murdering my family weekly. Okay. And so I'm not going to let my family be a victim. So I carry guns all the time. But even if I didn't have those extenuating circumstances, I'd still be a gun nut to the left because I'm going to carry them. Now, let's say I've printed guns before. Theoretically, I've printed a few guns. Okay. And you have to go get those blueprints offline. You might plug them into your little Ender 3000 or whatever. And you plug away. You got a gun, and you just get a couple of extra parts, and you get it going, right?
So the real thing in Australia that gets you here is you can't get those extra parts. Full stop.
So no barrels,
barrels,
no
even
no uppers at all.
Primers, you can't get ammo permitted. So
It's just so that would just keep you from doing that.
If anyone knows how to ship primers to Australia.
Yes, so me and AJ have talked about this. How do we export gun parts to countries that have tyrannical governments that are oppressing them?
So even for making barrels, as a typical thing, it'd be a gun drill for.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to make them. Yeah.
So in Victoria, there's only one company that's actually got a gun drill, not for doing gun stuff, for actual mechanical engineering uses. It's all like, even that's regulated.
Sure.
Just having what is effectively a big lathe.
I have not looked into crime statistics in a while for Australia. I stopped talking about it. I used to get in these arguments over the Nordic socialist model versus capitalist America, and this. I'd always be looking up stats for every other country, right? But have your stabbings in big cities like skyrocketed like a crazy amount, like London, right? For instance.
Moreover, it's the actual mass stabbings thing that's a phenomenon. Is the
mass stabbings.
Mass stabbings.
Right.
Yeah, it's a funny thing for American to hear. Mass stabbings.
Yeah, or like, oh yeah. Good luck mass stabbing someone in Iowa, brother. You know what I mean? It's you're not gonna make it very far. But so I really had focused on London in general, especially southeast end of London. These people have more stabbings per year than we have gun deaths in the United States. If you remove suicides from the gun death statistics in the United States, it's a very small amount of gun deaths compared to London stabbings. Just London in general is almost as many stabbings as we have gun deaths in the entire United States every year.
Well, you would have seen on the news the vision of the holy man that got stabbed in Sydney, right?
Right.
And his eye was stabbed. And that was the big thing that Elon Musk took on our e-safety commissioner about, because they wanted, the e-safety commissioner of Australia wanted that vision rubbed from the internet, not just in Australia, but around the world.
Of course.
So there was the big court case between Australia and Elon Musk, because she was arguing that, you're publicizing a terrorist event, you need to take it down. But this is the reality of what's happening in Australia. This is what people need to see, because the whole myth about Australia is a safe society because we don't have guns. We are not safe because we do not have the right to self-defense. As a woman, as a person with a firearm, if someone breaks into my house, I am not legally allowed to go and get my pistol and my magazine that I have to store in a separate safe and my ammunition out of a separate safe again and shoot that person. I will be the one charged with a crime if I defend myself in my own home, in my car, in the street. We can't even carry pepper spray. We are a nation of defenseless victims because the government has brainwashed people into thinking Australia is a safe society because there's not very many guns. I don't feel safe. I felt the safest I felt was at Porkfest, seeing people walk around with guns, and in Dallas in that cab ride home when the guy was like, "I've got a gun in the here. If anything happens, I'll protect you."
He had one in the glove box,
one on him, and we felt the safest we've ever felt. But we've come from a nation where we're told you're not allowed to touch a gun, even if your life is at risk. That is the reality for Australia. It's devastating.
Rape whistle doesn't cut it.
No,
it doesn't cut it. It's not going to.
Pepper spray is illegal too. So.
That's fucking bizarre to me. Pepper spray is illegal?
Pepper spray is illegal.
Do you know how many people die from pepper spray every year?
I imagine nobody.
It's some people do from like asthmatics, but it's a very low number, like a very, very low number. And I want to say, like, this is, you see this, my little Alaska pocket knife I got here? It says, let's see if I can get it to focus here. I don't know.
That's not a knife.
So, yes. It says "World's Greatest Dad" on the back of it, obviously. So this little knife is my secondary weapon. Okay. I don't ever want to have to rely on this as a weapon. If I get to that point, shit has gone very, very, very badly for me and my family. I can't imagine living in a nation where people kill people and you're not allowed to protect yourself with a firearm. That doesn't make any sense to me.
So you wouldn't even be, if someone come at you with a knife saying, "I'm going to kill you," and like literally waving it around in front of a police officer who probably wouldn't do a great deal about it anyway, and you had a firearm access, you still wouldn't be able to stop them, even though you're in full view of the law. It's obviously a justified self-defense. All of that still not allowed.
That's insane to me. But, California's like that too. And in some respects. I mean, if you shoot somebody that's in the commission of breaking into your home and they don't have a gun pointed at you, you'll get prosecuted in California. Iowa. So here's another thing about Iowa's gun laws. We have castle doctrine, first of all. So your property is your property. If they enter your property, all bets off. But we also have stand your ground laws as well. So even outside of your property, if somebody's trying to harm you, you can shoot them. Plain and simple, as it should be. I mean, when we're talking about personal defense, the very important thing is that you stop somebody who's trying to take your life before they take your fucking life.
So one thing that really doesn't get through to Australians on this fact is, like, you would say to you, okay, what about defending yourself, so on and so forth, and then you might say to the person, well, what about defending your family? Most people don't have family because supporting children and all that shit.
You can't afford it there.
Yeah, and so it's like they don't have that parental drive to be like, oh, I'm going to protect my family. I don't care what the laws say.
Sure.
So when you say that to them, it's like, no, I'm going to protect my family. I don't care what the laws say. They're like, we need to lock this crazy person up.
That's so bizarre because that's what I do, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like I drive through Illinois all the time and I'm carrying. I don't give a fuck, right? Of course, we just had some recent case law there that says we might be able to beat a case of concealed carry without a permit in Illinois. Of course, it was an illegal immigrant that was caught with an illegal firearm. They actually beat the case on a constitutional basis. So now we have case law in Illinois to kind of be like, well, if he can beat it, I certainly can beat it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. We don't have the constitutional right for the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all the amendments. We didn't even have the right to travel within our own country during COVID.
That's just
that's
bizarre to
written
me.
into our constitution that you have freedom of travel between the states and territories, but not if the government has declared a national emergency.
Well, I'd like to remind everybody watching this that all these people who simp for Florida all the time, Florida during COVID, they had checkpoints to enter Florida during COVID when COVID first started. It was the only state in the country that had checkpoints. If you were coming in from Georgia or Alabama, you actually had to go through a checkpoint to get into Florida.
What did DeSantis call up Daniel Andrews and figure out how to do checkpoints?
or Mark McGowan. They had
Mark
checkpoints
McGowan,
within WA. You couldn't travel even within the state.
So we had leaving the city during like the peak of COVID. If you needed to drive out, the only reason was for work, and you had to be an essential worker and so on and so forth. You would drive through a checkpoint with about 12 or so military people and another dozen cops, all carrying machine guns. It's like, I'm not allowed to carry a box cutter even if I'm leaving Target currently to my car.
True.
Right.
Wait, you can't carry box cutters?
Someone got
No.
arrested for that.
Someone was in their Kmart uniforms, Walmart, whatever, and they were at the train station on their way home from work, like a 20-something-year-old girl, and she had a box cutter on her that she just forgot to take out and leave in her locker or whatever. Obviously, she works at a place where you need to cut boxes.
Lots of boxes, yeah.
Lots of boxes. She was detained and given a fine and threatened with jail.
Holy fuck, dude.
And it's like, this person's not...
A criminal.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. So you can't carry a knife or anything.
A pocket knife, there is some exceptions, and even then it's a bit...
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So when I make the joke about assault knives, it's legit in Australia. I didn't even know that.
Well, talk about everything being a firearm.
Yeah. So even magazines are considered a firearm. Barrels are considered a firearm. They're not distinguished between a full functioning firearm or not.
This is what happens when we let retards make our laws, dude. I mean,
Yes.
that's really, at the end of the day, this is the direct result of letting retards make our laws. Because we've seen people here in the United States come out with pieces of guns in committee hearings and be like, this thing can kill 100 people in 30 seconds. And you're like, dude, that's a firing pin, you fucking idiot.
Well, that's a firearm in Australia. That's what the people genuinely think that as well.
But the real thing is the country believes that too.
Yes.
That's crazy, dude.
I wouldn't be surprised if 10% of the population thought you could throw a bullet at someone and it'd kill them or something.
What can we do? What can we do to fucking slap Australians awake? I mean, what's it going to take?
A revolution.
That's probably it. Huh?
Yeah, things that maybe we shouldn't say if we
A little uncomfortable on YouTube. Yeah, that's all right. I get
No,
it.
not about just YouTube. I'm more worried about the government back home.
Oh,
YouTube.
fair.
not
No,
gonna let that back
Axel's
in.
American now. That's it. It's over. He's not coming back. You know, it's funny because when we pulled into Perth and when the Navy pulls into Australia in general, Sydney or Perth, it's the one place that the Navy goes that several people don't get back on the ship. People just want to stay in Australia, dude. It's absolutely insane to me to think about all this shit in Australia, and then American goes over there in 5 minutes. They're like, I don't want to leave this place, but they don't really think about the laws at the time. You know what I mean? I think that's probably. I certainly wasn't at 19. Like, oh, I bet they have the fucking most like tyrannical laws you could possibly imagine here. No, I was like, this is a party, and maybe that's part of the problem is that
You know, it is like everyone. The one thing they didn't shut during COVID basically was
alcohol.
alcohol.
Yeah, they did the same thing here, dude.
But
They put vaccine mandates on alcohol in WA. You had to show proof of vaccination to buy alcohol in
alcohol.
Western Australia. You could buy tobacco, cigarettes.
but the
fine.
reason is worse.
The reason for that is because the Indigenous population weren't getting vaccinated. And so the big problem in that community is alcohol. So the government saw that as an opportunity to say, okay, if you guys want to drink, you have to have 3 injections. My state mandated 3 injections to be considered vaccinated, not 2, 3. And 75% of the workforce had to have 3 injections to be considered fully vaccinated.
Again,
That's how far they went.
letting retards legislate policy. And I will say, so I don't talk a lot about this. My trip to Australia was the only place I've ever been that was legitimately still segregated.
Yeah,
When I was in Perth,
yeah.
like legitimately, people talk about Aborigines and you automatically start thinking about like Dick Sheaths and spears and like, but in the cities, they're like drunk, angry people, legit, like black people. I mean, really, at the end of the day. And so I didn't think about that when you were bringing up the alcohol thing, because they are known to have like a very bad alcohol problem.
It's actually a thing of they just 60,000 years of not experiencing alcohol.
And then Western
And then
shit comes over like, here, drink some liquor. And they're like, holy shit.
it's the pacifier.
Well, then, and they didn't trust the government. So when the white man showing up with an injection, they're saying, I don't want to take that. I
Fuck
don't
no.
trust you. So
Yeah.
they are very anti-authoritarian, anti-government. But the government are the ones that create the problem in the first place.
But Northern Territory interned them because they wouldn't get vaccinated.
No shit.
Yeah,
Internment camps in
that's
2022.
that's always
yes.
gone well in history, right?
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because our native population in the United States heavily drinks. The huge alcohol and drug problem in the native population here
They
too.
had their own versions of like alcohol and substances. I imagine they fermented corn at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They drank and they did like ayahuasca and
Yeah,
all
exactly.
kinds of shit. Yeah, but they never had it readily available at the fucking store to just go and buy. And all of a sudden, Americans show up and like, oh, we got honey mead right here. We made that shit for you guys. You want? Oh, we got whiskey. Yeah, we distill whiskey right down the street. Come on over. And yeah, it's interesting to think about native populations in countries that have been colonized like America or Australia, and then they're always like that. It's always that way. It's almost like by design.
Why do they want it that way?
Yeah, but it's so. I keep saying retarded legislators, but really I think it's evil people,
I was
man.
going to say retard doesn't make sense for our.
Yeah,
they're
it's
just straight up.
it's evil people that know what they're doing at the end of the day, right? Like,
They legislated away all the corruption. Nothing's corruption in Australia, basically.
yeah, of course. You know what's gonna take? It's gonna take somebody like Bukele down in El Salvador. Have you guys followed him at all?
Oh yeah. There are examples like that where I just don't see how that person gets elected, and a big part of that is like the mandatory voting system.
Right.
We can't do it through our current system to get out. There's no voting your way out of this in Australia.
Right.
I know it's probably true everywhere, but it's
It's like communism. You can vote your way in. You got to shoot your way out.
yeah. I didn't say that on.
No, it's true. That's how
But you-
that's how
you're
communism
right.
is, dude. That's true. And I think places like England and Australia and a lot of Europe, obviously almost all of South America, it's all communism.
There
really,
are
at the end of
seats.
the
There
day.
are seats in Melbourne that got like 20% of the 20% of the vote was communist first preference.
That's
like,
fucking
it's not.
insane.
It's people are always like, oh, Australia's not communist to me. I'm like, 60% of the workforce, and the effective tax rate, by the way, is over 50%.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's like how does the government not control the means of production?
How is that not
Yeah.
communism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe it's socialism. It's like, okay, and like,
Do the people who say, well, it's just Nordic socialism, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do you know it's social? In the Communist Manifesto, socialism is a stepping stone to communism. That's what it is. It's the revolution. That's literally how we get there. And I always talk about, the people are like, that's not real. So it's not real communism. Like, listen, if you were a building inspector, right? And you're inspecting a bridge, and the blueprints, they continue to build this bridge on a blueprint. Every single time the bridge falls. Every single time it fails over and over and over again. Would you just say that's not a real bridge? Or would you say maybe the blueprint is fucking corrupt? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's what you do. You say, it's time to change the blueprint. This isn't the right blueprint. It's over. It's not working. That bridge sucks.
Well, the other thing that people say to us back home in Australia, criticizing America, is about your healthcare system, as if we have the best
I love this
healthcare in
argument.
the world.
I do.
And you put
so we had someone at Porkfest got bitten by a spider.
Ben, beautiful Ben.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you
Oh, my
met.
buddy Ben. I love
Hey,
Ben.
That
Yeah.
was us.
He was just on the show a couple
If
weeks
it
ago.
was an Aussie spider, he would have been long gone.
Yeah,
But he
would-
managed
never
to
would have
get
made
us
it.
in. Yeah, he
Yeah.
never would have made it.
He'd returned.
That's not because of the healthcare system.
No,
though.
that's right.
Everything they was trying to kill you. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. But so like he went to hospital in the morning and he was back bit in the afternoon.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, that's normal. That's normal happenstance here.
Exactly. And I imagine it costs money or health insurance or whatever,
Yeah.
but
Mostly insurance, yeah.
yeah. And like back home, it's like my brother when I left on this trip, he had a pancreatitis thing. He spent, I think, 12, 13 days in hospital in the end. They just had no way to deal with it. They were just like, but hopefully it'll get better.
For pancreatitis, there's like all kinds of shit you can do for pancreatitis.
Nope, not in Australia.
But remember, that was
Because it costs a bit of money.
that
So the
was the
States-
excuse that they used for keeping the border closed, was to keep the hospitals ready for this influx of people dying. And now we have the worst healthcare system in the world, and none of it's free. You always have to pay something. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, it's not even actually free.
You could be Canada and be like, oh look, we're just not going to take care of you. Hit the pod. They got
Well,
suicide pods
yeah,
now.
Yeah, you
No,
could-
there are like politicians talking about those bills and stuff.
The suicide pods. Hey, you're kind of depressed there. Maybe you should get in the pod. You know what I mean? Like that's healthcare. That's healthcare in Canada now. Legitimate healthcare. Yeah.
Ours is more. So there was like a whole bunch of like I had a colleague that got a cancer. It was like a stomach one or whatever, and it was like, it's like at the moment it's not a big deal. I mean, it's cancer, but at the moment it's not a big deal. If we don't treat it in the next 6 months,
It's going to be a big deal.
it's going to be a big deal.
It was already a big
The
deal.
wait time was 9 months. It's like it costs nothing to treat it now virtually, but we have to wait until it's going to kill you before we can.
And
deal
I
with
want to clarify that you did say the effective tax rate is 51%.
It's at least it's arguing. I'd argue more, but it's at least.
And all of England and Europe is not any better when it comes to effective tax rate, and they're all having the same issues with the NHS and stuff like that. Was that what they call it?
Yeah, it's England's one.
Yeah. So at what point do these people who are constantly advocating for the Nordic socialism model because of free healthcare understand that it does not work? When you're paying more
they
than
have to go to hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Exactly. Because, like, look, America, first of all, our healthcare system is shit in America. I know that people, you might hear me and be like, hey, it's shit. It's shit because the government got involved. It used to be the most robust healthcare model in the entire world. We had, the prices were on the board when you walked in, and you could pay cash out of pocket, and it was like $10 to be seen, and you didn't need insurance. But then the federal government stepped in, started subsidizing insurance companies. I had a buddy who he worked on diesel bodies, so like diesel trucks, 18-wheelers. He's a body shop guy for them. And he'd be like, look, let me explain it to you this way. This was before I was fucking economically literate at all. I was a young kid, probably in my early 20s, probably way before I ever read Murray Rothbard or any of this shit.
Yeah.
Or Henry Hazlitt even, for that matter. And he said, let me put it to you this way. If you come in as my friend with a damaged bumper, okay, bumpers aren't cheap for 18-wheelers, okay? I'll charge you about, $2,500 to fix it, maybe $5,000 to replace. That's cheap for these vehicles, right? Okay. if you come in with insurance, I'm billing the insurance 30 grand. Okay. And he's like, that's what's happened to our healthcare system is we now have a healthcare system that's subsidized by the federal government. And we saw it during COVID and YouTube probably will, I didn't monetize this video yet, but they'll definitely demonetize me for saying this, or at least put notes on here. They were paying $9,000 if a doctor had to trach somebody. They were paying $36,000 for ICU, or it was some. I'm not saying the right amounts, but this is true. This has all been proven that the healthcare facilities were being paid by government through Medicare and Medicaid, which are government programs, government socialized healthcare.
Effectively, the Martin Shkreli thing, but
right. So they're paying
everywhere.
these healthcare companies to say, yes, you have COVID. Yes, we need to trach you. Then we come to find out that a bunch of people are dying from the trachs. Okay, the trachs were killing people in the beginning of this. That's why they stopped traching people who were just a low oxygen pressure, right? And so the government was basically paying healthcare in the United States to kill people. And we saw it big time in New York. Big time. I mean, this asshole, this piece of shit, this crime family. I don't even like to say his name on the. And Hochul's not much better, okay. But this guy was basically a crime mob boss in New York, and he was taking COVID patients, young COVID patients, and putting them in nursing homes around frail, fragile, old people who a swift cold would take out, and then going, look, see, COVID's killing all these people. Like, no, dude, you're doing it, and so. Our healthcare system in the United States, while I would much rather have my healthcare in the United States than have healthcare in Canada or Australia or Europe, it's still not great. It could be a lot better if we could get the government to fuck out, quit subsidizing, and otherwise we're going to end up just as bad. The problem is like, and I used to argue this with a lot of people with the Nordic healthcare and socialist model in general. The populations of these places that have these models are so much smaller.
We're smaller than Texas.
Way smaller than the whole state, than the state of Texas. Yes, that's what I used to say.
We're as big as mainland America, landmass wise, but
right?
Population of Texas.
The population of Texas. So like
half the GDP.
Yes, that might work on that scale for a time. But I hope that people would look to what's going on at the NHS or Australian healthcare, Canada healthcare, where they're like, just get in the pot, dude. We can't afford this anymore, right? I hope people that would look at that and start to reevaluate what they're trying to force on the United States.
I don't know that it, like, America's got this beautiful thing where if you don't like what's happening, a bit hard, but you can just move to where you do like.
We have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Vote with your feet.
Yeah.
Which is, and I think that at some point most libertarians will get to the point where they're arguing for 50,000 Liechtensteins, right? I think most Americans will be like, you know what? Most American libertarians, at least, will be like, yeah, you know what? National divorce is the only way, right? Like peaceful national divorce.
But the problem
otherwise revolution
with the war machine and the banking system.
They won't allow
it. Well, never mind. They won't allow it. The economic fallout of doing that will make the situation of doing that look terrible. Yeah.
I'm just going to laugh in Vietnamese rice farmer, my man, because at some point we're going to have, vote from the rooftops like the Koreans.
Yep.
I just, I don't know that this is a sustainable political climate currently in the United States. It's just not going to be sustainable. Something's going to have to give, whether it's a national divorce, whether it's finally the Liberty Republicans take over the House and Senate, which is a possibility as well.
Which is probably the best outcome for.
That'll be the most peaceful outcome for sure.
Yes,
no doubt, the most peaceful. And I want peaceful. You know what I mean? I try to tell people, like, because I talk a lot about on the show. Even I talk about how we're in a civil war right now in the United States. This isn't. People be like, oh, we're not at war. I'm like, no, this is a civil war we're at right now. And I think that people like me are winning secretly because we're printing our own guns, right? We're opting out of the federal fiat system and we're, dealing with Bitcoin and trading with Bitcoin and doing, we're part of the healthcare freedom movement and the food freedom group movement. We're opting out of the corporate farming structure. Like, that's the civil war that's going on now in the United States. And the more you do those things, the more we win. And we can do that quietly without even you know what I mean? The government's going to push back.
You can do it in America. That's kind of the difference. Like even back home buying Bitcoin, bank will hold your payment and not allow it because they're like, oh, this is a scam. And it's like,
no shit.
It's like a proper actual exchange but you're still holding your own currency and stuff. Banks will block that transaction. Be like, you can't You can't, like if it was Coinbase or whatever.
Well, they're trying to even get rid of banknotes in Australia.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
make it
Oh,
all
you guys
digital.
they're going to go to a
That's-
CBDC
yeah,
there
that-
for sure.
Yeah,
No,
that's
no
the
doubt.
next step. We've already got a digital ID, which has just passed the parliament. So you have to have a digital ID in Australia now to participate in your healthcare and your taxes and everything. They are forcing us onto this
and you can't not
digital
pay taxes,
thing, and
of
you
course.
can't
So.
not pay taxes. So we're in the corner, and there's no way out because we don't have guns to blow our way out of it.
I want
basically.
Americans to listen very closely to this because I've talked a lot on the show and during my campaign about CBDCs. That is the last step, my man. That's when they have full control over, when they can control your finances 100%, when they can shut you off with a button from buying things, you're fucked. I mean, that's it. You know what I mean? And this is a country that was founded on a rebellion against like a 0.03 increase in tax in tea. Okay. In tea, in fucking tea. We don't even drink tea in America because it reminds us of Britain. Okay. It's like we're done. We don't even, if we drink tea, we're putting a cup of sugar in that motherfucker because we're Americans and we can do that. Okay. And it's going to be cold. We don't like it hot. We like it cold with a lot of sugar. That's who your forefathers were. Those are the people that founded the country that you call home, that you love, that you pride yourself on, that you're patriotic about, that you celebrate in 3 more days as a free nation. That's who founded this country. And we're talking to people now that have a country that are close to CBDCs, very close, that are already on a digital ID.
You can't withdraw cash at banks without a questionnaire if it's over like a couple $100.
That's where we're headed. This is where we're headed, guys. Is this what you want? Is this what you wanted? Is this who you want to be? Do you want to be expat to some, I don't know, like fuck, we got a guy in the chat right now that has left America to go to El Salvador, okay? Because they've made Bitcoin a legal tender there, okay? Do you want to be that guy, or do you want to fix this once great American nation that gave so many people around the world freedom from the crown, especially? Dude, I don't want to, how do you, and you guys too. I mean,
That's why
Well, we're still part of the monarchy. That's the other problem.
now king still owns our hands.
And
you guys
our
never
land.
fought them like we did.
And our land,
Well,
crown
we,
land.
Tried.
No.
No.
Never.
Never, not
tried.
once, right? There was no war between you guys and Britain at all. You were always on the same side of everything, right? Yeah.
Oh, well, no. When America became the superpower, we started sucking a different dick.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And I talk a lot about that on the show too. We're one of the youngest nations in the world. We're kind of like the rebellious teenager.
Australia's younger though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice and young.
But we're one of, maybe 10 of the
Yeah.
youngest nations, but we became the superpower in the world in that time, which is pretty crazy to think about. I mean, we're talking 200 and some odd years. It's not some long time.
Or because you had politicians at one time that were arguing against taxes.
Right, against
It
taxes.
literally is what
Yeah. Well,
made that
we had
choice.
the land giveaways too. Like people came over here, you could be free, you could get land, you could the American dream, right? Like I don't want the American dream to die in the United States because that's literally what we were founded on.
You still get to hear it here, like for all the terrible things that are happening in whatever elections you don't have that aren't real.
They're not real, yeah.
You know.
Those motherfuckers are not real.
But it's like you still get to meet people here that are just like particularly in the rural parts outside cities, people are just like, you might talk to them about, oh, look at this terrible thing that's happening in America, and they're just like,
Don't
I
give a
don't
fuck.
care.
No.
I've got my own property. I pay fuck all in property tax, which is still ridiculous, but
Always, yeah. One of the most ridiculous taxes.
exactly.
that
But
we have.
but nonetheless, they're just like the level of come and take it attitude that all of America has.
I wish we had that in Australia,
Yeah.
especially in WA. My men at the moment, don't let them take a gun
You guys-
off you.
You guys have a
please.
very famous Australian that had a very fuck you
Yes.
come and take it
did.
attitude, Mr. Ned Kelly, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
man.
That I think
We got that.
I couldn't imagine somebody embodying the come and take it attitude more than that. And I think that needs to be the new national motto of Australians.
Tomorrow or the next day, we are going to Granby, Colorado to
Oh,
Pay our respect.
pay our
Pay
respects
respects to Killdozer?
the mechanical Ned Kelly.
that was our Ned Kelly. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And there's we are a little tongue in cheek about Killdozer around here. I love Killdozer, but he was kind of an asshole in real life too. But you're allowed to be an asshole. That's what I try to tell people. And when good men have been pushed too far, good men can be the scariest people on earth. And I think that I wish that your Libertarian Party would be a little more Ned Kelly and a little less gun grabber. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be nice. We need the Lionhelm era back, right?
Who's going to lead that?
I don't know.
We did-
Liberty 2025.
Yeah.
We did have another super chat from Mr. Toad here. He's a $5 super chat. He said, "Lady Liberty looks shockingly like my first wife," which is hilarious because we know you've never been married, Toad. Sorry, buddy.
Well, I was waiting for him to propose at Porkfest, but he did.
Sure.
He did serenade me. I will say that
With his ukulele.
With his ukulele,
The
yes. He played me
Beautiful,
Blink
weird little
182.
man. I love you to death. Toad is a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's
I've stayed at Toad's
beautiful.
house. Actually, one time I went to Boston for a convention, and I stayed at his house for like 7 days or something, and I never once woke up to him jerking off over me, which I thought was pretty cool.
manners.
You always get a little worried about weird people that you know from the internet. So he never did that. I did wake up and he was working quite a few times. That man is a workaholic. People don't know that about Toad. He's a workaholic, and he's constantly looking at like betting lines all the fucking time because he's got a gambling problem.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know about that. He
We
actually
all
has
have to have one vice, right? Or two or three.
yeah, well, and he doesn't drink. Yeah, he doesn't drink or anything
No.
like that. My vice is obviously Marlboro Reds. People know that about me. I smoke.
Well, you will die. A pack of 20 Marlboro Reds in Australia, $50.
Fuck, are you serious?
$50 dues.
Which is
yeah.
about
and
35
vapes,
US.
Vapes you can't get without a prescription from a doctor. These are banned in Australia, and that you can only get them through a
Especially that one
pharmacy.
Wait a minute. What do you have to get?
You have to go to the doctor and prove that you're trying to quit smoking, so you need a vape, and then they issue you a prescription, and you go to a chemist, and they will literally dispense you a vape.
So what happens if you get your vape but continue smoking?
They don't care about that. It's just as long as you have a prescription
One-
and you're
It's about
part
the
of the
money.
pharmaceutical industrial
One
complex.
kind of upside to Australia is there are certain substances that we all indulge in that is so prolific that it's funny, weed's becoming quite legal here in a lot of different places in different ways.
Yeah, almost every state it's legal now. Yeah,
Yes,
very close.
at least medically, it's I think legal everywhere now, basically. But back home, there's only just become medicinal marijuana. But kind of the one upside is like, short of like ripping a bong in front of a cop at the
They don't
police
care.
station, you like it doesn't really like
Sure.
that. They'll just be like please just
That was California. That was California in the 80s and 90s
Yeah.
too. California was the first. So it actually got legalized municipally in Eureka, California, like Humboldt County. So if you've ever heard the term Humboldt County, like back in the 90s, even like weed was illegal everywhere in the United States except for Humboldt County, California. So people would go up to Humboldt County. There was a place called Arcata is the city, and there's a place called Hippie Square, and there'd be like all these hippie dudes there with vans, and you'd go up and be like, hey, you got this, you got that, and they'd take you to the van, and they just have like mounds of weed in the back of their van. And the government wasn't like taxing it or regulating it or anything. So you guys know, have you heard Murder Mountain? Have you ever heard Murder Mountain in Humboldt, California? There's all these like crazy weed farms, like crazy fucking weed farms. And there's been like gang wars over this stuff, right? For a long, long time. And there's like, they got all kinds of crazy security and shit. It's really crazy. But pretty much after that happened in the 90s, like nowhere in California gave a shit about weed anymore. Like everybody was just like, the cops didn't care. You could walk down the street in San Francisco and buy and sell and smoke weed. Like no one cared at all. And that's exactly what I think of when you say that.
Well, it's even more with vapes. Like how to buy a vape without a permit is go into a Chinese tobacco store, go up to the lady and buy it, because when the police officer walks in there, she just pretends she can't speak English. And the police officer can't, like, the cost to get a translator out there is less than, like, what they will get out of her for whatever crime she's allegedly committing. So there is some sort of resistance things in Australia that are kind of hopeful, but certainly from a...
But we're the only country in the world that don't see vapes as a way to quit smoking.
Yeah. I don't see them as a way to quit smoking either, though. But that's just me because I know. First of all, I can't stand vapes. Like personally,
Sorry, sir.
Personally, I can't stand them. Like I've tried them to quit smoking before, but nothing tastes quite like a nice
true.
Marlboro Red. You
That's
know what I mean?
true, yeah.
And I do need to quit. In fact, like soon, I have to quit really soon. Actually, we have some extenuating circumstances coming up that I have to quit for. But I also would like to stick around and see my children grow up. And I know that like I've been a Marlboro Red smoker for like 25 years.
Wow.
Maybe pushing 30.
Quitting's for quitters.
Yeah, but
Says the Australians.
I've gotten. Yeah, you guys quit your whole country, damn it. I've gotten to a point now at 41 years old where I feel it now. Like I walk upstairs and I get winded. Sometimes I stand up too fast. I'm like, shit, I might pass out. Like I know that it's not good for my circulatory system and my breathing. And I'd like to be around for my children. I do breathe bad and I don't sleep good and it's like fucking me up. So I know I need to quit. But man, the vapes just will never do it for me. There's nothing even close to a Marlboro Red.
Cigarette. Well, that was the interesting thing about Tucker Carlson, who's just been in Australia recently. He got up there and did a big speech, and then the Australian journalists put shame on our country. And one of the things he said was, "There's this bad drug going around Australia," and that was 1 minute of the news, and the next 20 minutes was about how bad vapes are. It was just like, have you guys got your priorities right here? Like you're slamming like vapes as, you know, a gateway to tobacco, but like what's the priority?
And him shocking or destroying our commie journalists was.
Oh yeah, especially the gun debate.
That was one of the most beautiful,
Yeah.
like things I'd ever seen as far as journalists go. Look, Tucker, you say what you want about Tucker. That guy has been really, really good since he went rogue.
Yeah.
And I know that he had some constraints at Fox, but even at Fox, a lot of people give him shit. At Fox, he was really good on war, like really good on war. The only person at Fox, really, besides maybe Kennedy, who was very good on war. He's been very good on foreign policy in general, like, you know, foreign welfare, all these things. He's been very, very libertarian on a lot of things. He's gone way harder libertarian over the last year and a half.
Seeing him in Australia, just talking about, and the way he handled them, like, just they didn't understand that they've been fed propaganda so hard.
Oh yeah,
that Australians are fed so much propaganda. Even us coming here and seeing like how Americans live and being, you know, I know quite a bit of American history, and she knows all about guns, and it's like even then just having that propaganda unworked, seeing how Americans actually live, like Texas, basically nothing's illegal if the police didn't see you do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's how Texas. Well, it's funny because I get in arguments with international people all the time, and they always have the same caricature of me. Like I'm some gun nut that wants to kill people, and it's like, no, I don't want to. I absolutely do not want to kill anybody. Like I really am not interested in killing anybody. If I do so, it's gonna fuck with me for a long time. I'm gonna feel really bad about it. The only way I'm gonna do it is if you try to harm me or my family. Right. But they have it. I know that they're, especially in Europe and Australia and Canada, they have this caricature of Americans that we're all fat. First of all, yes, we're all fat. That's true. That part's true. But that we all are like these like bloodthirsty like monsters that want to kill people. And it's like, dude, the vast majority, 99.9% of gun owners in the United States are peaceful people who have never heard a fly. Never heard a fly. And that's the truth. I mean, we're talking a huge portion of gun owners in the United States have never harmed anybody.
And the other huge big piece of propaganda is Americans are all really nice. Australians are like, you know, it's kind of
Wait, they tell you that we're nice?
No. The propaganda is that Americans aren't nice.
Oh, fair.
Compared to Australia, Americans are like, and I'm not just talking like, in the Midwest and whatever, it's like a bit of a trope or whatever. I mean, everywhere.
Tropes exist for a reason, though. We are very friendly in the Midwest.
The Midwest is probably the most friendly, but even then, Tennessee was amazing.
The South, a lot of parts of the South are very friendly as well. Yeah,
you know, apart from like the center of DC, which even then was still far more polite than Melbourne or whatever. Like, you know,
I'm interested to see you guys take a trip into LA, though.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
You guys are going to go to LA, right?
I don't think we're going to make it. We're going to go to Vegas for Freedom Fest.
Vegas is literally like 3 hours away from Los Angeles. It's like a 3-hour drive.
He doesn't want to go to LA.
Oh, fair. How are you this hair metal guy that doesn't want to go to LA?
No, that's exactly why. because it doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. It's not the same.
The fantasy that my teenage and childhood and whatever else
It's not there.
grew up with, it
Hollywood is not anywhere near what it used to be.
Never mind Hollywood. It's just that was it the West Hollywood Sunset Strip?
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. It's all homeless poo on the streets and fucking zombies walking around on heroin and fentanyl. And I was there. I haven't been back to LA. Well, I was in Santa Ana this last year, which isn't far from LA. But if you're gonna go to like that part of California, Santa Ana's got the best Mexican food per capita of any place in the entire country. Trust me, any taco spot you walk into in Santa Ana is gonna be the best tacos you've ever had in your life. Not American tacos.
No,
Yours
like
are pretty good tonight.
Not the tacos. No, those tacos I fed you guys tonight are white people tacos. Okay.
That's how we have it back in Australia. That was like
A home cooked meal.
Fair. I try when people come to the studio, we feed them. That's what we do. I want to make sure that everybody gets fed. If you're going to be here, and you guys are traveling from a different country, we got to feed you. But no, those are white people tacos. We don't. I did not grow up eating white people tacos. I'm from California. I enjoy absolutely like authentic, like just onions, hot sauce, and cilantro on meat on corn tortillas. That's a Mexican taco. And they sell them on the streets of Mexico. But in Santa Ana, the tacos are better than they are in Mexico. It's like the best Mexican food you can have. Yeah. So if you do make it to LA, just know that it's not going to be like what you think. But it's still, I mean, the remnants are still there.
Yeah.
If you go at night on like the Sunset Strip, or if you go to Hollywood Boulevard or something like that, like there are places that you'll find like that hair metal like 80s feel for sure. It's still there. It's just not like it used to be. It used to be the whole place, right? Like
exactly.
Everything was Motley Crue.
Yes.
And it's not like that anymore, but it's close. But you're not really what kind of metal are you into? Are you
hair metal.
You like hair metal?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
Can't you tell by his hair?
Yeah.
I've just acclimatized. America's not kind of fond of my lewd outfits in public.
I think it's cool, dude.
But so back home, you kind of get away with more if you dress obscenely. So
oh, it's just another mental patient. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, fuck it. No, you showed up to the convention. You had your tight pants on, and I was like, that's just how I know you.
But even then, in DC, we were walking around later on, and I had like tight American flag pants on. It was Memorial Day.
Yes, it was Memorial Weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
And some guy comes up to me back home, this approach would more sort of be like, I've got a knife, you need to give me your things. But he comes up to me, it's like, oh, I love your pants, man. Like, whatever the Memorial Day. And I was just like, this is great. I'm not getting stabbed. Like,
well, I tell people this a lot, moving to Iowa, because like people will just wave at you and say hi to you on the street here in Iowa. Just walking, everybody wants to pet your dogs and stuff like that. But where I'm from, in Oakland, California, that's not the case. Yeah. If somebody's waving you down, they want to rob you or something.
Go a different way.
Yeah, they want to rob you or steal from you or stab you, or they got some business proposition or something. It's always this fast talk, and I still suffer from that fast talk. Everybody's real slow here in Iowa, and I'm like, they're like, whoa, slow down, But I moved here, and it took me a while. It happened first in Oregon, because Oregon used to be one of the most friendly states in the country. In fact, it was the one place known that was friendlier than the Midwest was Oregon, and Portland was voted the most friendly big city in the country. That is no longer the case. Yeah. Portland, Oregon is long gone, long gone from what it used to be. I still love Portland. My family still lives in Oregon, but I won't take my kids downtown. I mean, that's just not what it used to be. But I had to get used to it in Oregon first, because I moved there in 2012 when it was not taken over by the Antifa losers yet. And I was like, wow, why are these people waving at me? This is a big city. I'm in a big city walking down the street. You don't wave at people, and people are like, hey, and I'm like, I don't got any money. I don't have any money, and so I started kind of getting used to it there. Then I moved to Iowa, and these people are just, I mean, it's a whole nother level of friendly here.
So like, can kind of relate to that. Like, my accent's very strong, thick, and bogan, because I grew up in an area, hair metal teenager catching the train. It was a really rough area.
Sure.
And I fast learned I had to talk like them. You just kind of have to
you gotta out talk them.
Yeah. And it was one of these places again that had every day every second day or so there'd be a police raid on the station because a bunch of kids have knives, and it's like they come down with their machine guns, and it's like
Fucking war zone.
and it's like people are like, oh, it doesn't happen in Australia. It's like, you've just lived in a nice part of the city then.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, that's what I tell people too when they're like, "Oh, you don't need to carry a gun." I'm like, that's a privileged.
you must, yeah.
That's when you talk. These are the same people who are like, "Oh, you have white privilege, right?" These are the people telling me I have white privilege. These people that live in like upper middle class to rich neighborhoods that have never had to deal with violence of the cities before or whatever, right? These are the people that want me to be disarmed, and I'm like, that's a privileged viewpoint. That's because you've never experienced violence. You don't think everyone else has experienced violence, when the vast majority of people in places that I grew up have all experienced violence, whether it's in school or at the fucking mall or just walking down the street. It's like constant violence. These are violent places. And for you to say that I don't need to protect myself from those is a privileged viewpoint. You're actually, my man, the one with the fucking privileged viewpoints. That's who when I'm talking to these people, like you're just because you live in some gated community where you don't have to have bars on the windows doesn't mean that the rest of Americans do. There's a lot of us that live in really bad places that need to be able to protect our family. And you're advocating because of your safety privileged position that I shouldn't be allowed to protect my family. Get fucked. Get fucked. That's how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you have to say anymore. Your opinion isn't valid to me. It's over at that point.
Well, we also have, apart from a stabbing crisis, we have a domestic violence crisis in Australia. And none of these politicians, not one, have come out and said, let's just give people the right to defend themselves. How about that for a solution? It's more money for the charities that are trying to help. Men are the problem. That's what our Prime Minister came out and said. He said men need to treat women better. It's a male problem. No, it's not. It's the fact that you've made us a nation of victims. Men know that we can't defend ourselves. We're not allowed to do anything at all. You have created the problem, and your answer to that is blame men, blame all men, make all men the victim, like the ones who are making us the victims, when it's insulting. Like, to call my father, like, saying that he's the problem. No, it's not. It's the fact that we don't have the right to defend ourselves against someone who's trying to attack us. And you can't get through to Australians. They turn to the government as if they're going to save us every time. What are you going to do, government? Let us rely on ourselves and our communities and our families. That's how we fix the problem.
Well, I have a question. So when I was there, this was like 2004 maybe, when I was in Perth, and there was this rumor around Navy guys, because it was no secret that the Navy guys would show up and Australian women would be like, oh, Americans, you know what I mean? Like, it was very clear that there was like some kind of, I don't know.
Attraction?
Well, it was an attraction, but it was like, it wasn't just because of how we looked. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me be honest. There was a very clear reason, or very clear, unclear reasons as to why Australian women loved American guys. And one of the rumors that was going around on the ship and in the greater military in the United States was that, Australian men were allowed to beat their women, that it was legal to do so, and that they would see American men as more refined because we would go to jail if we beat our women.
So particularly back in, like, say 2004, like, I came from my stepfather was extremely abusive and stuff. I had police officers saying, when I was more a teenager and it was still going on, and come around to the house, try and break in and all that stuff. Even the police were saying, look, just put a knife in his hands after it's all said and done. It's like,
Oh, jeez.
Like, I'm like 16 or whatever and got to deal with that. But it was a thing like before like 2010, where it's not that it was legal, but it was just the police wouldn't do anything about it because there was no system to do anything about it. And that's kind of the other thing. We're not allowed to defend ourselves. And so the government says, call the police. And the police show up and go, not allowed to do anything about it.
That's
like the paperwork's too hard, or they'll just get out. And, like my stepdad broke like 13 restraining orders over 26 breaches, and like all of those carry a jail sentence. And the only time he ever went to jail is because he attacked an ambulance driver. And it was like, well, like, there is no protection from the state. It's all a joke.
Well, it's really, and I mean, that's anywhere. That's the thing too, is like when we talk about, people are like, well, the police are there to protect you. It's like the police show up and take reports after crimes have been committed. I mean, 90% of the time, the cops don't ever stop the commission of a crime. That's not something that happens very frequently. Maybe a guy who's on his way to commit a crime gets pulled over and then gets shot by the police or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the time, the cops are pushers. I mean, they're taking reports on things that have
And
already
they
happened.
say as much, and then people are still like, "Oh, but the police will protect us," and it's
Like
like,
how? But when you need a cop in 30 seconds, they're only 20 minutes away, right? I mean, that's the truth. I mean, if you don't have the means to protect you, I can't imagine any government going, "Oh, the cops will protect them. They don't need guns," and believing it. I just can't see how any government official believes that.
with how strong our education system is at indoctrinating people, I would imagine by now there is a large portion of the government that actually believes that line, along with many other terrible.
It just blows my mind. It really does. I don't know. I fucking. But so going back to the domestic abuse thing, was that the truth? That was really how it was.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's
So that was our rumor. We didn't know.
But that's the thing. It wasn't legal, but it wasn't. It was earlier on. It wasn't until like I don't know exactly. It was somewhere in like the 80s where they made it illegal.
But it just still was like commonplace.
But it was
after
just
that.
like
Nobody really cared.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, there was a couple of different weird rumors. I know the guys who have been to Sydney. There's like a part of Sydney that's like called Chocolate City or something like that. And the black dudes like would basically just go out there and clean up house, and it was because they had never seen like an American, like a black guy who was like refined and spoke well and like wasn't drunk. And
Well, the other thing is American wealth by comparison too. Like because it wasn't.
so they really don't know how much we make in the military then.
Well, no, but the fact that a military man could buy a house after several years of service, like that'd be a joke back home.
Yeah,
You know?
when I first joined the Navy, I think I was making $1,260 a month, like $1,260 a month to be in the military,
And that's
while I was at
like
war.
2002 or something like that.
2000. I joined right after 9/11.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was. I think it was 2002 when I joined. Yeah, and it was.
That would. I
have to
mean, I
get
know
married.
you're at war, but like that's an obscene amount of money to an Australian woman.
Really, that was nothing to us. I mean, we were just like, this is like pennies. But I lived on the ship, so I didn't have bills.
That's where it comes in. It's like you get 1,200 American a month without costs, where our cost of living, like our house. So the other thing is, America's got like about a 20% of your income goes to housing when you average it out across the country.
Yeah, it's somewhere
something
around
like
there,
that.
yeah.
It's 60% for Australia,
dude.
but you get taxed.
51%. How you can't make that work?
Yes,
It doesn't
do the math.
The math ain't mathin', brother. It ain't mathin'. Oh, AJ Fisher, what's up, man? My normal co-host
Yep,
who
yeah,
sits
yeah.
in Axel's spot there said, "I've been replaced on the couch by some long-haired bogan." What the fuck?
That is very true about the bogey.
He did say she's quite the Sheila, though. So,
Yeah.
there you go. AJ is my. If you ever watch the show,
Yeah.
AJ's our resident offensive gun guy.
Yes.
He's more of a he's a good gun
He's
guy.
more of her
and
views
then,
with
and then
the
Ryan's our like nerdy Ian from like
Yeah,
he's our Ian guy who I love to death as well. Ryan is both of those guys are my best friends in the world, but Ryan is like my best friend in the whole, like the guy who like we're moving in September and he's like we're gonna come help you move. Like I didn't even have to ask the guy, you know what I mean? Most people don't just offer their services to help you move. It's not, especially when you have a house like mine with
Yes,
you know.
Australians will plan like holidays or whatever for when their friends are moving.
Or you got to at least bring a couple of slabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Payment in
in
beer.
slabs. Yeah.
slabs.
Slabs
24 cans.
Yeah.
Oh, fair. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I didn't know if it was like a barbecue thing or like, we just do pizzas here or like, hey, we're 25 pizzas. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Pizza and beer in Australia. That's the payment.
Yeah, that's pretty common here too.
Yeah.
Beer and pizza. I just don't drink beer really.
Yeah.
In fact, when I do drink, I don't drink beer. I drink whiskey. I'm a whiskey guy.
Yeah.
I only like bourbon or rye these days. As I've gotten older, I've just kind of specialized. You know what I mean? I used to drink it whatever, and now I'm like, I just like this one thing.
We can't go past the $2 beers.
Oh, yeah, your alcohol is so cheap here.
There's
Compare-
no
I
such
bet,
thing as $2
comparatively.
beers in Australia.
Oh yeah, you can get really. I mean, you could get cheaper than $2 here.
Oh, no, but $2 beers is like at a bar kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Like Pabst Blue Ribbon or whatever.
Yeah.
It's $15 for a pint in Western Australia and Perth at the moment.
dude.
$15.
Well, it's funny because I was telling you
Hey,
guys.
it's 20 in Melbourne, so,
Holy shit!
Yeah.
which is like, what, 12,
What's the
13
average?
US.
What's the average salary in your area?
So it's the official numbers are very convoluted and stuff. They go, oh, the average salary is like about 90,000 Australian, which is about 60 US. But the median salary is about 50-ish thousand, which is the real one that actually matters, is the like the median of
Right.
what most people are earning. And it's like rent something like 20 to 30 grand a year for a house, Australian, you know.
Fuck.
Yeah. Again. So if you earn 50 grand, we do have a kind of loophole in the tax where if you earn under 18,000, you don't pay any tax. So there's like at least a bit of breathing room to
right for poor people.
earn some real money, and then definitely not earn other money.
Right. Yeah. Definitely not doing any other money around here, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but like when you go to rent somewhere, they're like, if 60% of your income can cover the house, they'll rent it to you, and if not, go be homeless.
That's like buying a house here, but it's not 60%. It's like,
Yeah, but that's the other, like people are complaining, oh, my mortgage has gone up. It's like, oh, another thing, you can't get a fixed interest rate in Australia.
no fucking way. They don't do any fixed interest rates.
Not since it was 2019 when I knew things were going really bad economically, and I'm like, Mum, you're on a variable interest rate, and she's like, oh, the interest, it was like 0% at this time. Before COVID, Australia was going to have a huge economic tank, and I'm like, oh, just go and get a fixed interest rate, and she'd be like, oh, but it's like 2%. I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
I was like, that'd be great if you can get 2%. But then she goes to the bank and they're like, oh, it's 2% for 3 years. And then it goes variable anyway. And that's all we've got.
And there's only variable interest rates. Mm-hmm. That's fucking crazy. And you guys do have a Federal Reserve. I mean, you have that sets these interest rates. And
we printed a lot of money. We printed a lot of money too.
And you gotta be able to make that money work somehow. And the only way to do that is to fuck with the interest rates, right? I mean, we're dealing with that now. Of course, we do have fixed interest rates.
We're the only country in the world that's beating you at inflation for Western countries.
Jesus.
And that's the reported figures. Ours is looking like, bacon's going up 20% every 3 months, but it's like, but we're at 4% inflation.
Yeah, no, they try to pull that trick here too. And I'm like, listen, as a guy that has to feed 7 children, your 4% inflation is not fooling me. Okay, I know that the inflation is much worse than 4% because my grocery bill went up from $850 a month to $1,600 a month. Okay, we're talking doubled easily. Okay, so don't give me your bullshit about 4% or 3% or 2.5% because I'm feeling it in the grocery bill that we've watched. So I moved here in 2020. The gas was $1.70 a gallon or $1.60 a gallon. It's now $4 a gallon.
So I've been very paying attention to that.
A
A lot of that's one of my autistic things is petrol heading in cars and so forth. I think it was somewhere in Texas we saw gas for $2.60 a gallon.
That's pretty cheap. Yeah,
that's pretty cheap, and which is like way cheaper because that's $1 US a liter for us in metric.
Yeah,
which is $1.50 a liter for back home.
I don't know if you know this, but we threw tea in the harbor to make sure we never had to deal with your metric bullshit. No.
And as an engineer that mostly does design tools that are based on American concepts, I'm used to conversions. But like in Chicago, it was like $4.70 a gallon.
Oh, easy, yeah.
And I was just like, dude, like that's worse than Australia at fuel price. And I'm like, you guys have oil to drill. What's going on?
Oh no, we don't drill our oil, buddy.
Yeah.
No, we're holding on to that. It's important because if we don't, we may no longer be the world's greatest oil reserves. It's all bullshit. Yeah. But we'll go and take your president out and full regime change over your oil. Trust me. Don't doubt us. We'll do it. If we we drill for oil somewhere else and find it, we're taking your country.
That's why our gas prices. So like for the LPG or what's it propane here or
propane. Yeah, we have propane. Well, the natural gas.
Natural gas. So our natural gas, we have a huge reserve of it, and it should be the cheapest energy source on Earth is our natural gas, right? And we have to tax it at a huge rate, because otherwise countries won't buy it off us because it'll ruin their price.
Didn't you guys give the world asbestos?
Yes, we
did, right?
Asbestos mines. We've also got the most uranium, pretty much the most iron ore, pretty much the most coal.
But we
we're
can't
going-
have nuclear power.
yeah, we can't have nuclear power.
Make
No.
that make sense.
Yeah. No.
Well,
Well,
none of us are allowed to really have nuclear power because if we did, it would effectively take a ton of money out of the government's pocket. That's really the only thing holding nuclear power back at this point. And that's why they constantly demonize nuclear power in the media, because they know that should we go to nuclear power, it would absolutely 100% destroy a ton of financial incentives for the government. Because people are like, oh well, PG&E is a private business. Like, no, dude, it is not a private business. If you think that power companies are private businesses, I have a bridge to sell you over some land. It's absolutely 100% PG&E. Here we have Mid-American Energy Company. They're all the same fucking company. At the end of the day, it's all subsidized by the federal government. Funny story: we were talking about Paradise burning down in California a couple years ago. Upstairs before we came down here to do the show, talking about how progressive deforestation policies have absolutely destroyed the forest all over the world, not just the United States, but the West Coast especially. That Paradise fire was actually started by a faulty PG&E electric box that they had said had been fixed and never was fixed. So the way this worked was the government came to them and was like, okay, listen, you guys burned down an entire city and all of these and all the rest of the forest around it and all these little small private lands. And so you owe these people money and they're going to sue you and you're going to get sued and you're going to have to pay them out. And they were like, okay, cool. No problem. But we're going to lobby you to raise our rates. And they said, yeah, that's fine. So they raised their rates by like over 3%. Okay. To pay the lawsuits for the fire that they fucking created in California.
I wish our corruption was that small.
Right. Well, that's just a tip of the iceberg. That's just That's just if you want to burn down an entire city. Okay. There's a lot of other things you can do too. No, our corruption's really bad too, and it's unfortunately. And I think that probably Australians are a victim to this too. You guys have created this society that's super fucking chill. People are really happy. They're like, yeah, fucking, I get to go to the bar till 8 o'clock in the morning. The beach is cool. It's all chill.
Usually get kicked out in Melbourne at 10 a.m.
Yeah, yeah. So like you've created this like, and it is true. Like, whether Australians are friendly or not, I've never met a not chill Australian. Like,
yeah, no, they're chill. They're chill.
Super
just not friendly.
Right, sure. Just super chill and like, yeah, everything's great, mate. Like, I'm having a great day, mate. Let's go barbecue. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the bar. Everything's cool. Like, that's the culture you guys have as a country. Mm-hmm. And America has become that culture as well. It's on its way to that culture. And I think that when you breed a culture like that, it's much easier to oppress people because they're just like, I got everything I need. Everything's cool. I got reality television. I can go to the bar. I can get down to the restaurant and have them make food for me. Everybody's cool. I can go to the beach. Like, I think that that's really kind of, that meme, like hard times create, weak men, and weak men create bad times, and bad times create hard men. And I think that that's really as a global culture, a lot of Western states or Western countries we're in that part where it's like, the weak men are creating hard times. That's really where we are. There's no doubt about that. And I think it'd be, you look at these leftists who are like the most puny, like weak men I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're like talking real tough on the internet all the time, but you'd see them and they're pissed their pants in real life. Right.
Yeah.
It's like those people that's the weak men creating the hard times. And if we aren't the hard men, creating better times, our children are fucked.
Our hard men all died when the Stingray got Steve. And
dude, that was the last national.
That was our Harambe.
Yes.
That was.
See, now I wish I had a drink to take a drink for Mr. Irwin, who was. God, what a great human that guy was. Fucking, is he a national hero as much in Australia as he is in the United States? He's a fucking national hero here.
There was talk about putting him on one of our banknotes.
You know what?
But we
that'd
put
fix all Australia's problems.
Put bloody King Charles instead. Travesty.
I fucking loved that man.
Yeah.
So I don't think that nobody ever was like, no one was ever like, you know what? You know who's a piece of shit? Steve Irwin. Oh, no one ever said that.
But that was kind of, I think he's our propaganda campaign for Americans to be like, Australians are all great. And
sure.
He's nice, sure.
Him and Paul Hogan. Everybody from Australia is like Steve Irwin and Paul Hogan for sure, no doubt, right?
But there was a time when that was like pretty much true.
Oh,
you know,
sure, yeah.
like the 90s, even certainly going further back.
Well, and Australia was a hard place to live for a long time, and it created,
Yeah.
tough men.
Even when I interviewed Marge Teray from Black Guns Matter, he said, I thought all you Aussie guys were tough Steve Irwin crocodile hunters. And then I was telling them, no, they're handing their guns back to the state. They're terrified.
How old are you guys?
He was disappointed. I'm 36.
32.
Okay, so 96, you guys. Well,
I was old
very
enough
young.
to
You were old
remember
enough to
96
remember
because
96.
my father had to hand back guns, and I just have that image burnt into my brain of this peaceful teacher that would never hurt anyone having to hand back guns because of the actions of one man. And that's why I'm so passionate about firearm rights.
I remember it too, like when Dad had a gun, and like I remember the times that gun had been. It was a shotgun, and it was specifically a shotgun that made a loud. Yeah, exactly.
That's how you keep the people from entering your house. You know that?
But it had been used a couple of times for that. We had people trying to break in, and that noise goes off. People are no longer trying to break in. But then they handed the guns in because, it was like, oh, you don't have a choice.
Of the state.
And one thing Australia is much better at doing than, say, America with its attempted gun buybacks is Australia was trying to overpay in a lot of scenarios because they were just like, we just want to all of them gone.
Yeah.
See, if your whole nation had gone Ned Kelly, it might have been a different thing, man. Like,
we have a really bad problem with the whole like thin blue line situation too. Is another.
That's the American thing.
That's the American version of it. We don't really have a name for it, but nonetheless, there's a the state and the police will always protect us, but also like
there's the boot on your neck.
Yeah,
big time. And yeah, I couldn't imagine. Obviously I sat through the assault weapons ban tries numerous times in the United States. Of course, I was in California when they passed it. I mean, it literally was something that had passed when I was a kid. And then, some of the good thing about America is we had the sundown clauses, right, on a lot of the stuff. A lot of the stuff that's unconstitutional, they have to put a sundown clause on, and then it passes and then never gets taken up again or whatever. But there is a real push in America today to get rid of federal gun laws. I mean, it's my state of Iowa has a bill trying to go through the House as a state to nullify federal gun laws in the entire state. And we're not the only one. New Hampshire has one. There's other states that have them, and it started with constitutional carry, right? Because Iowa didn't used to have constitutional carry. In fact, to buy a handgun in the state of Iowa, you used to have to have a permit to buy a handgun, just to buy one, not to carry it. Just to buy it, you had to go and get a handgun permit.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, right? You guys are like, well, fuck me. Sounds like real tyranny to me. No, yeah, we've gone from a state where you had to get a permit to buy a handgun to a state that you don't have to register your guns in the state at all. You can still carry, and we're trying to nullify federal gun laws. And that's only happened in like 5 years. And now it's in our state constitution. It's been enshrined in our state constitution. So.
I was at a place where we can actually go and buy guns here.
Yes.
Which is just like insane.
You guys could go buy guns here.
Yeah. When we cross that border, we're like, oh, what are the gun laws here?
Can you take me to the gun shop, honey, please?
Yeah. There's a really good one right up the street here. I'll give it to you offline. You can also just buy a gun from like a person on the street here.
Yeah,
yes, we looked at that too. In Australia, it has to go through a gun dealer, and it all has to be signed. You have to wait 28 days. Blah blah blah.
I think the only thing you still have to go through an FFL here in the state of Iowa for is if you were to buy.
It's only if it's a federally registered gun supplier.
Fully automatic machine gun, or a silencer. I think still requires an NFA. So anything that requires an NFA tax stamp, basically, which all it is a fucking tax collection revenue scam, really. And I think it. Even at that point, if it's not something that's been federally banned, I think there's still some clauses you can get around here in the in the state of Iowa as well. But yeah, we went hard away from what Iowa used to be, and very far away from what the federal government wants us to do in Iowa, and I couldn't be happier about it.
And
good.
And it's awesome that America gets those choices.
Like, right.
Iowa does it, but Illinois is not. If you're in Illinois, move to Iowa.
Yeah.
if you like those.
That's why
things.
I always tell people in Minnesota, hey, just an hour north from me. You know, if you're in Minneapolis, you're about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of being in Iowa. If you're in Illinois, you're 3 hours away from living in Iowa. Well, you're 3 hours away from living in Des Moines, Iowa. If you're in Illinois and like the eastern part of or west part of Illinois. I have good friends that live right over the border from Iowa. And I'm like, dude, just move 5 minutes away. What are you doing, dude? Why are you still there? You know what I mean? Like, why are you still in Iowa? And I get one of them. I understand one of them. But why are you still in Illinois when you could live in Iowa? Illinois and Minnesota are completely run by Minneapolis and Chicago. That's it.
And also, if you live in like that Western Illinois, as far as like your job opportunities, farming, whatever else, it's all basically the same.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Just
Western Illinois doesn't look any different than Iowa. No, it's like it's a cornfields. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys came through that way.
Yeah, we did. We
On the
came
80?
through and then a bit up. Yeah, on the 80.
Did you guys stop at the world's biggest truck stop?
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
Yeah, I love that fucking place.
Australia's got a huge trucking culture because
yeah.
that's the only way we move anything around the
Yeah,
country.
because some of your shit's so spread out and far away. from
Everything
each
is
other.
spread out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
when I got to customs and the guy was like, "You're gonna drive from Dallas to DC?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Melbourne to Brisbane." Like, what are you?
that makes sense.
That's two cities back home.
Yeah, it's
right?
that ain't shit. Yeah, I know you guys really spread out. Yeah, and you guys, what's the population of the whole country of
It's
Australia?
26 million.
Yeah, that ain't shit. Ain't shit at all. This state, the state of Iowa, is 1.7 million people.
Yeah. Well, New Hampshire the
entire
same.
state.
New Hampshire, this tiny little state, it's like 2 million people.
Yeah, but they're more concentrated than we are here. in
Yeah,
Iowa. There's only 3 concentrations in Iowa. There's Ames, which is where the state school is.
Yeah.
There's Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, which is where the
Yeah, we went through that
Hawkeyes are.
too.
Yeah, and then there's Des Moines, Iowa, and Des Moines, Iowa has I think Des Moines has
Seeing
380,000 of the 1.7 million people live in Des Moines.
Seeing skyscrapers from a cornfield was like, because Melbourne, for example, is so big. Melbourne's as big as Houston as far as like the greater Melbourne and the greater, not just Houston, but like all of the bits around Houston, right? And like there, you just see buildings and buildings
Everywhere.
And
It's a concrete jungle.
Whereas Melbourne is just this huge landmass of suburbs, basically. There's a little skyscraper section in the middle, but I wouldn't even say Melbourne's much bigger than the CBD bit's not much bigger than central part of Des Moines.
Wow, that's my AC going on,
Yeah,
by the way,
that's-
so don't worry about it. It's nothing crazy, nothing's gonna blow up. But I had a question. Did you guys? Are you familiar with Field of Dreams, the movie? No, it was a baseball movie from the 90s.
I mean, I know what it is, but
Like Kevin Costner, and he keeps getting the "if you build it, they will come" thing. You don't remember that movie? You never watched that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, your guys' cinema's a little different than ours.
Yes.
I get it. I understand.
Yes.
We watched Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, well, of course you guys knew Crocodile Dundee. How could you not? But the baseball field from that movie is actually built here in Iowa, and it's a baseball field in the middle of the cornfields, and he built it in I can't remember which team, some 1900s, early 1900s Yankee team or something, showed up and played on the. Anyways, so that's here. Bridges of Madison County. You don't know that movie?
No.
Okay. Well, the Bridges of Madison County is here as well. You can go see the covered bridges of Madison County that go over all the little creeks, and they're like covered driving bridges. There is some cool touristy things in Iowa. I don't know. It's all really lame, but they're kind of cool. It's like down home, like Midwest country tourist shit.
Nice.
But it's not all state schools and the big city. But have you guys been having fun in Des Moines? Des Moines is kind of a cool city for how small it is.
We just love America. We've just been having the best time
Every
wherever
part,
we go, every day. Just waking up with a smile on our face. We're here in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Yes. Fuck yeah. On the 4th of July almost.
On the 4th of July,
well-
we're going to be in Colorado with Forest Mummy. And
There you go.
Irving
Oh, I
Rose,
love her.
So
She's
she's
great.
hosting us. We're going to drive there tomorrow.
I think even in Chicago was a great experience because for the first time ever we got to buy an Australian priced beer on the river.
Really?
Very expensive.
It was very expensive, but I was like, oh, it's like being back home.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy beer that expensive anywhere, it would be Chicago or New York City. Have you guys been in New York City at all?
No, I haven't, but
No.
she's
Yeah, it's fun to visit. would never want to. Like,
No.
I don't even want to take my family there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, fuck this.
Yeah, no.
The fact that they've legalized all kinds of like terrible like crimes are just, and California's not any different. At the end of the day, LA's got signs up that's like, remember, still, if you steal under $963, you won't be prosecuted. You know what I mean?
What the?
Like, that's California right now. It's like, as long as you don't steal over $1,000 worth of shit, we won't put you in jail. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And you can't protect yourself, you know? But anyways, I appreciate you guys coming on. We're almost at 2 hours here.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
No, it's good. It's good. When people come in the studio, I don't want to do an hour show. I'd rather do a little bit longer. So, but one more thing before we go. Julian Assange has been released recently.
That was a big day for us.
We cried.
And he's an Australian.
Yeah.
And he's gone home to Australia.
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
And not being chased by our government, which is
right, which is
yeah.
like,
that's kind of what
that was
I'm
kind of a shock too.
getting to is like, okay, Assange got out and immediately got on a plane and went to one of the places that would absolutely prosecute
Canberra.
him if they could. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, I was like, this deal must be something way beyond what any of us can comprehend for him to go home to Australia.
Well, it was just because he pled guilty, basically.
Okay.
And so the U.S. government gets to go, oh, we got him. Which the U.S. government loves saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, we already, don't worry, Australia, we took care of it, we're good. But this man should have never been in jail to begin with. You know, I think as far as, there's so many people in American jails especially, but all over the world, but American jails that shouldn't be in jail at all. But the three that I've always focused on have been Assange, of course, Ross Ulbricht. If you're not familiar with Ross Ulbricht, you've never watched my show because I talk about him all the fucking time. And then, of course, Edward Snowden shouldn't have to be on the run from his home nation and family as well. But getting Assange released was such a huge thing. And there's some people that are pissed off, think that the Libertarian Party has tried to take any credit on this.
Oh, yeah.
But I want
reason.
but I want to be clear. I want to be clear about this. The Libertarian Party has been one of the loudest organized outlets in the U.S. of A. About releasing Julian Assange. So not giving the Libertarian Party credit would be bullshit. But also having Donald Trump, a former sitting president, show up to the National Convention and say very publicly, I will release Ross Ulbricht day one, absolutely had to have something to do with it, because you got to understand that the Biden campaign knows that they're fucked right now. They know that. There's nobody who watched that debate the other night and said, yeah, Biden's going to win this. Honestly. Nobody has said that honestly. Everybody has said, we're fucked. We have to do something right now. And so to see Trump say, hey, libertarians, we'll release one of your heroes for day one, they had to do something. And who better than Assange? You know what I mean? So I'm sure that played a part in
sure.
the DOJ and these people making these deals, because at this point, the DOJ is just an extension of the Democratic Party. They're an arm of, they're the thugs, right? Like the FBI too. And like all of them are just like an extension of the Democratic Party. They're going out harassing political rivals, but they know they're fucked. They know the Biden administration know they're fucked. They had to do something. I'm sure it had something to do with it. Now, there's a lot of people like the Libertarian Party couldn't have held any weight like that. You're right. But Donald Trump could have, for sure. And having Donald Trump go on television and say those things absolutely played a part.
Even his family came out and said as much. Like,
yeah, his wife, Stella. I mean, she Stella came out and was like, yeah, thank you guys for what you've done. You know what I mean? And the party has worked their ass off. Every candidate across the country for any office talks about Assange and Ross Ulbricht and Edward Snowden. I mean, that's just how it works.
In Australia, the Libertarian Party there, to give them credit, that's something we ran on as a platform for the last federal election, was bringing Assange home. So I feel like it was a concentrated effort by Liberty people across the globe that made this happen. And he's finally home.
Yeah, greatest journalist of our generation.
Yeah.
It's one of the few actual lasting, like, I don't know what you call it, like flyer and poster campaigns in Australia, particularly in Melbourne. Like, you know, there's a heap of communist flyers and whatever else going up, but the one thing that has like remained for at least a decade has been Free Assange.
Bring
and
him
it's
home.
Yeah.
And he's home.
And he's home. And I'm
We
sure
drank a lot of beers that night to celebrate, that's for sure.
I'm hoping that he drank a lot of beers that night to celebrate. And I'm hoping Stella's happy. And Stella and I follow each other on Twitter, and I mean, really, at the end of the day, nobody's worked harder than Stella Assange at trying to get him released. I mean, the love of her life and the greatest journalist in my lifetime. I mean, this is a man who put out real journalism and was put in prison for his principles of being an honest journalist. It doesn't get any better than that, man.
Yeah.
So Australia's got some heroes still. You guys still got some heroes to look to. Hopefully we can start to push a sentiment like that.
Hopefully we can make another one.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Hey, you guys are heroes to me. You know what I mean? And it's not just because you ran away. I know you got to go back. But and I say this all the time on the show. If you're a liberty loving person in a country like Australia or even Canada, even you snow Mexicans, if you guys want some freedom and love liberty and aren't coming over here to try and give us more government, please come. Please come. But if you're not coming to bring us more freedom, don't come. In my best Kamala Harris impersonation, don't come.
Yep.
Don't come. We don't want you. Thank you guys so much for coming out here, man. We appreciate you. And in visiting and having dinner with the family. Is there anywhere people can follow you, support you, listen to you, all those good things?
I'm Lady Liberty Australia, so you can follow me on X, Facebook, and Instagram. And Axel and I do an occasional podcast after we have a few beers.
Nice, best way to do it.
We've also got a bit of a singing duo going on because he's a musician and I'm not too bad.
Do a bit of music as well, but
music. Do a bit of comedy too. We did stand up in Fort Worth. We'll be back there for a week before we fly out.
Where?
So we'll see.
In Fort Worth. Random.
Oh, you guys got with Anarcho. I fucking love that guy to death. I forgot he does stand-up comedy too. Yeah, he's great. What about you, Axel?
Oh, I'm just Axel Winner 6, another Twitter shit poster trying to bring down the government one spicy take at a time, trying not to get arrested, but also trying to.
It's a little harder to get arrested here in the United States for your social media, but it can happen. Surprisingly, I know I'm on all kinds of lists. People know that about me. I've been flagged for all kinds of weird shit. But it's much easier where you're from to get arrested for your social media.
I think no one expects it to happen though. So there is kind of nobody's looking because no one would expect there to be a Josh Smith in Australia just doing this out of a basement. They'd just be like, because they get shot straight away, so we won't even bother looking because no one would try.
Yeah, and if the government's watching me right now, I know you are, you motherfuckers. Come and take it, bitch. You're not taking this podcast studio from my cold dead hands, buddy.
You could have been the presidential candidate for the LP, brother.
I would have been, but hey, shit happens. We gave it. I went into the convention thinking I'm gonna leave it all on the convention floor, and they can either pick me or not. I don't care. Either way, I get to go home to my kids, my wife.
No, I'm excited to see how you do in this.
This is going to be a lot uglier than that campaign as far as.
But it's good.
I get to direct the ire that I have at somebody who's trying to take my rights in my community.
Yes.
And that's very exciting. At that one, it was like I was running against a bunch of guys that I agree with on most of the things.
Yeah.
So it was hard to really talk a bunch of shit. Now I got a lady who wants to take my right to defend myself. Hates farmers in one of the biggest farmers states in the country. There's just so many things that give me ammo that it's gonna be fun for me. But I love you guys to death, man. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a lot of fun. I will see you guys tomorrow. Tuesday we have a new live show for you. So I will do a Tuesday and a Thursday show this week. My good friend Michael McFarland from Arizona will be on the show with us. Until then, don't forget to break cycle.
Have to explain the lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just landed in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse because I just landed in Minecraft. A trooper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control because I just landed in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it. No product finish, cause the clothes was COVID.